And why do they say probiotics after an antibiotic?
Yes.
You know, I think.
Well, it's definitely a good thing to do, of course. It won't. Some of those products out there are not going to do anything, right? So it might not necessarily be a very good thing, but it won't be a bad thing. Pardon me, but it acknowledges the fact that you've probably damaged a lot of the gut bugs. So
through the antibiotics.
Through the antibiotics.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come to me, referred by specialists, with gut problems, and they often have significant gut damage, and we need to reverse that balance. You can't replace the bugs, as I said before, that have been wiped out by the antibiotic.
Okay.
But you can at least recreate ideal conditions, and that's the important thing.
Okay.
And that'll suppress the bad bugs and stop them doing the damage that they often do.
How bad is it actually getting with antibiotics? Like, does it just totally wipe out everything? I guess it depends on the antibiotic. Yes. And how long you've been taking it for.
Yes, antibiotics vary in the broadness of their spectrum of activity. So some are very specific, others are broad spectrum antibiotics. And it's the broad spectrum ones, like the metronidazole flagyl that was used on me, that do the most damage to your gut microflora.
Okay.
Now, you can talk about bloating and gastric reflux and things like that. Let's talk about the small intestine. A healthy small intestine should be populated by cultures that are like yogurt cultures. Now, as I said, I used to work for dairy farmers. I also developed the first direct-to-the-vat yogurt culture grown together, the two components in the world. Okay, so I know a bit about those cultures, and I know that they're not proteolytic. They don't eat proteins, in other words. Mostly they eat sugars. They're saccharolytic. Okay. They don't produce gas, for example, because you haven't seen a fizzy yogurt, right?
No.
They tend to suppress bad bugs, but they're extremely sensitive to antibiotics. We used to use a yogurt culture called a Streptococcus thermophilus, to test farmers' milk for antibiotics because they're very sensitive. So if you've got an earache and you take penicillin or a derivative of penicillin, a pill, you don't stick the pill in your ear, you stick it in your mouth. And the first bacteria it comes into contact with mainly are those ones just below the stomach, which is in the small intestine, and it totally obliterates them. All right? And if there's not one cell left to regenerate that population, you end up with this biological vacuum. And then bacteria have been shown to come down from the mouth and come up from the below in the lower regions of the gut and take over in that area. Now, if they are gas producers, then every time you feed yourself, you'll feed them, they will produce gas, and it's too low down to burp out, and you'll bloat.
Right.
It stretches your intestine, which is damaging to the intestine as it is.
Yep.
If they are proteolytic bacteria, they can damage the gut, and that can lead to leaky gut and candidiasis or whatever, overgrowth. It's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's mostly bacteria, but it can be candida, the yeast, the
Candida, was it?
Yeah, a lot of people pronounce it candida, but it's microbiologists tend to pronounce it Candida. Candida albicans is the yeast.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that gas can force up through the stomach and push acid up the esophagus, and that's your gastric reflux. Now, a doctor will give you a drug like Nexium or something, a proton pump inhibitor, that switches that acid off. And in a sense, that's
symptom, isn't it? It's not the cause.
Exactly. It's treating the symptom, not the cause. Now, if you don't treat the symptom or the cause, you can end up with esophageal cancer. So it has to be dealt with. But 62% of people in hospital with pneumonia are on Nexium, for example.
Okay.
As a leading immunologist said to me, a professor, he said, bad things are happening to people on Nexium.
Right.
You see. So what we do is actually suppress the bugs that are causing that problem.
Through a probiotic.
with the probiotic.
Yeah.
Exactly. And or a synbiotic, to be more precise.
Yes.
And that's when you can actually dramatically improve health, because the effect of only treating the symptom is that those bugs are damaging the gut still.
Okay.
And that cascades into a whole lot of health issues.
Yes. And you're saying it's inflammation.
Well, one of the major things that happens with bad bugs in the gut is inflammation, because in your gut you've got receptors called Peyer's patches, and Peyer's patches are actually the immune system looking into the outside world, because your gut contents are the outside world. And those dome-shaped receptors respond to the bacteria that stick to them. And if bad bacteria stick to them, the first thing the immune system does is what it does when you cut yourself and it's starting to heal and it reddens around it. That's inflammation.
Inflammation, yeah.
The immune system is trying to cook out, figuratively speaking, the bad bugs. But if these bugs are constantly there on your Peyer's patches, then you will get constant inflammation. And inflammation and runaway immune system is at the root of so many of the things that we suffer from today. And so what we need to do is kick those bad bugs off there with good bugs. And then the immune system says, oh, well, I can see that all's well there, I don't have to inflame things, and inflammation goes down. Right. That's why hay fever, asthma, those things get better when you treat them with this, this synbiotic.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you had asthma. Yeah. Yeah, and I have an allergy to cats. I don't know, could that ever go away, like allergies?
I think so, because we've seen recently research done with people who have an anaphylactic reaction to peanuts, and how have they been treating them? With a lactobacillus, you see, with a good probiotic.
Wow.
And they've actually been able to reverse that. So I have every confidence that good strains of probiotics at high enough levels will reverse those sorts of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like are we just starting the discovery? Because it seems like we're just learning more and more and more.
There's been an absolute explosion in research and awareness in this area.
Yeah.
Some suggest it's gone over the top. Well, maybe it's a pendulum swinging, but and it'll swing back a little bit. But right now, there is just a massive amount of research going on and in this area, and it's kind of dawned on the whole scientific and medical community that, gosh, we have to look after our gut and our gut bugs. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic, and that's probably enough for this video. Hopefully you guys like that. Definitely, if you have any questions, let us know in the description below. There's our website and email. Thank you for all those questions and answers. Amazing, I'm still learning and I love learning this stuff. But in the next couple of videos, we're going to go in more depth and have a bit more of a discussion around the symptoms, causes, GMO, more around athletes and experts in the industry taking probiotics. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you guys very soon with the next video. Bye.
Bye.